What's going on? And welcome back to the A Show with the Kings of Pro Wrestling Podcast. Well, really today it's the King because we were about to record the show. Mills had to take care of some business, and so I was kind of like left with a couple choices, and literally everybody was busy today. So what we're gonna do today? I might have a guest join in. You know how I do. We might do something. Off the cuff. I've been texting people up to the point where I hit record. I have been texting people. So like somebody I sent the link and then whoever comes in, they tag in like the Royal Rumble, which we're gonna be talking about on the show today. But yeah, so this is obviously I'm gonna do it straight off the cuff today, and we're gonna call it in the ring. I'm gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff. And you know what? Just because you guys were so gracious and so great over the past month, obviously a big announcement that we had is the amount of money that we raised for fire victims in LA. We raised over $800, sent that out over the weekend. And because of that, I want to give you guys an extra gift and just make this show just basically like boom, everybody gets the show. I'll review everything here today, just for the inconvenience. And yeah, just thanks to all of our fans and everybody, all of our listeners who turned up and really like really put it down and like honestly, it was surprising the amount of people that supported, and it's always shocking that we have a community of fans that and listeners and people who are in our Discord and people who advocate for the show and in such a great way in every single week. And obviously another example of that is our Royal Rumble pool, which ended this weekend. Obviously over the Royal Rumble, we did the Royal Rumble pool, we announced it, and we have the winners of the Royal Rumble pool. I want to say congratulations firstly to Melon and Chakra, who won the pool I believe it was the male side. And Bry Bosa, two-time winner, first two-time Royal Rumble pool winner, Bry Bosa. I don't know what to say. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm ready to have that energy back on the show. But congratulations. Won again. I don't know how it happened. You know what I'm saying? I have no clue. It honestly probably was a situation where Brian knew before anyone that he was about to win this, and it happened. I'm still, we might do a recount and we might do a reshuffle because I'm really not sure if I agree with the outcome there. But shout out to him. And we have amazing plans for them when they get on the show. Of course, obviously the winner of the Royal Rumble pool is eligible to co-host the show with us. As always, every year it's the best part of the year every year, just to get some of our listeners on the show and get their opinions. We've had some really great personalities on the show before, and they've grown to become their own their own little celebrity in their own right. So shout out to everybody that entered the Rumble pool, and maybe next year will be your chance. Uh, if Bry gets three times, I'm just gonna, who was the runner up? You know what I'm saying? Who was the last? Who was the other person in the ring? So, shout out to everybody that entered. But I want to get into some news items real quick. First off, Triple H, Hall of Fame. I mean, is it even shocking that this happened? I know a lot of people online were really upset about Triple H, because it was always said that like I believe like Vince McMahon always said like, yo, I don't want to be in the Hall of Fame. Not that whatever the fuck he says matters anymore, but he's always said he didn't want to be in the Hall of Fame because he felt like it was, he didn't want to self-aggrandize himself. He didn't want to make himself bigger than the company, than the brand. So a lot of people look at this as Triple H really catapulting himself above the brand. But I think that this makes sense on a lot of levels on why they would do this. They are constantly pushing back or attempting to push back on, that legacy of the McMahons that kind of defined the company for over 50 years, right? Last year was kind of the big step in saying this is the Paul Levesque era. Paul Heyman said it himself. the Netflix era, the new generation, whatever you want to call it, they firmly are standing behind him. And I think that it makes sense to do that because Vince was always the face of it. I don't know why people would get upset that there would be another face of the company, and it has to be this guy. He, for all intents and purposes, was beloved in the late 2010s for what he did with NXT, and that love is carried over to, people that have just forgotten, largely about the type of performer and personality that he was in the early 2000s. And he is a rare case of somebody in wrestling that like really kind of aged better with time in terms of public perception. Besides what people think of him, in certain circles. And, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother thing. But he is now going to be a Hall of Famer on his own. And I think that even if you look at it from the sense of what would they be putting him in for, obviously it's for NXT. Obviously, this one seems to be, I'm not really sure if it's gonna be like, well, it looks like it might be more of what he did as a wrestler in general. Cause I mean he hung up the boots. What was it? I was there. What was it, the LA show? Where he hung up the boots, LA WrestleMania, where he put the boots. No, was it? Or what? No, no, no. It was Dallas. I was there too. It was Dallas where he put the boots in the ring. Like that. That was when he ended his career officially in ring. So it makes sense for it to happen now. I think that if they're putting him in on that on that label as a wrestler, hell yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. I don't get why there's a lot of conversation like, oh, there's no more main eventers for these shows. I'm like, there are plenty, and he's definitely deserving. You know what I'm saying? If they're doing it on what he's done as a businessman on the other side of the camera, he definitely deserves it there. It makes really no sense to be upset about this whole thing. Like it's not a unique thing to do to put uh the guy with the pen, the pencil, so to speak, in front and center. And you know it has to happen that way, So Triple H, he's gone ahead. He's going to be in the main event of the Hall of Fame this year, and I can't think of anybody better to do that. He has definitely change the company around for the better. And again, optics wise, you want to change the whole perception of the company. Whether people agree or not, like that is the first step that they're taking to do that. And Triple H is definitely the person to bring the company into the next generation, so to speak, of that. So Kevin Nash had a comment about it. He said, "I'm going to go out on a limb for 2025. I really think that it's time that my click friend, one of my dearest friends on earth, somebody I consider a brother, Paul Levesque, I think it's fucking time, dude, that man goes into the Hall of Fame. I'm going out on a limb. He'll never do it. We've been trying to get him to do it. I saw the video. I was so fucking pissed off that Taker and Sean took basically, you know what though? If I had to tag in somebody to be the click to come out with Sean and put a click guy, I think Undertaker is a pretty fucking good choice. It seems like Taker wanted there to be more click people inducting him or doing that surprise video. But listen, X-Pac isn't gonna work. You know what I'm saying? Like X-Pac isn't the face of the public facing IPO, TKO, WWE involvement. That's just not going to happen. Sorry, Kev, but he's happy about it. I think a lot of people were happy about it. He definitely deserves it. The video is actually pretty cute, and I thought the video was cool. And I can't wait to see who inducts him. Who are we thinking is going to induct him? Like, would it be Sean? Would it be Steph? Steph seems like the most logical thing to do. It's his wife. I mean, it makes the most sense. I mean, maybe we go crazier. Maybe Justin Credible gets a live mic. Who knows? We'll see though when it comes to Vegas and late April. Next point of news here. Big announcement that's just kind of like happened out of nowhere. It was rumored and then it kind of was announced literally right after. WWE Evolve. WWE actually bought Evolve, and it was revealed over the weekend that they bought Evolve, and pretty much like right after that announcement came out, this announcement of the new Evolve show came out. Is premiering on Tubi on March 5th at 8 p.m. Yes, that's right. Same day as Dynamite at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Tubi. So that's another outlet, and I'll get to that in a second before after I get through all of this, the marketing speak and everything. But very interesting timing, very interesting channel. But Evolve is from what it's described as, is a relaunch as a showcase of in-ring action for up-and-coming WWE prospects, including talent from the recently established WWE ID program, a developmental program that works to provide indie wrestlers a more seamless transition to WWE. So what you have here is essentially they're not calling NXT the D League anymore, they're not, or the G League anymore. It's not like the C level thing. It's now up to me about a B level. NXT's gets the big deal in CW. They're getting money to pretty much put the show on a higher level. They need a show for all of the people that we wonder on NXT. Where are all these people that they signed that don't show up on TV for such a long time? There's another level. There's another tier of WWE before you get to the main roster. Um, and again, ever since they restructured the way main roster worked, and we've kind of seen that already, they're giving people 2 years, 2 to 3 years to get it together, or they're gone. You know what I mean? And that's been the biggest problem with NXT, is that there's a log jam every 2 or 3 years, and we're starting to see it now. That's why it's good to see some of the people that we've seen over Rumble weekend, or that we're going to be seeing going forward, are kind of moving up. But there's always a log jam in NXT where there are talent that are there and down there for such a long time, and essentially they get stuck there and they get typecast, and it becomes very hard for them to get called up, because they're you know they outstay their welcome for so long. I think that there's a lot of guys at NXT that are like that right now. Wes Lee is one. I think Tony D's been down there for too long. I think Trick Williams has been down there for a while. I think it might be time for him to go up and kind of sink or swim. Oba's gonna get there. I think by maybe this time next year, he's gonna get there where he's been there too long. I mean, even the women, Roxanne Perez. I mean, that's that goes without saying. They're already prepping her to go. But Fallon Henley, a couple of other women on that roster that have just been there for a very long time. WWE Evolve is kind of giving a more streamlined, in my opinion, view of it. I don't know how this exactly will work, or what qualifies these ID talents to actually get signed to NXT, if they even want to go to NXT. Like, that is the big question there. But you give another tier, another layer of what they're trying to do to develop this new talent, and this is essentially like a more of a consolidation effort, because like these talents can still go work indies, they can still go work TNA, I'm sure, if they want to. And again, we brought up that partnership a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of WWE has their hands into a lot of baskets. And speaking of a lot of baskets, what I mentioned before, they're on Tubi. Tubi is, of course, owned by Fox. Fox was, of course, a channel that was in the running, I would say, to pick up the, now we don't even know where it is now. AEW Shockwave show was originally planned to be on FS1 or some Fox affiliate network. Evolve has now taken what I would believe a wrestling spot, a prime wrestling spot on Tubi, their streaming platform. I don't think there's room for both of these uh, companies to be on one network. It will be very interesting to see where AEW goes from here, because now I think, to me, in my opinion, this is WWE pretty much saying we're trying to own every day. We're trying to own every day, whether big or small. This is the fourth WWE show that'll be streaming. It'll be Raw, Netflix. It'll be NXT on CW. You can stream that. Then Friday on SmackDown. They're very much in every permutation of TV or streaming that you can find. It's going to become very hard for a company like AEW to kind of maneuver their way and get their stars on other channels, because there's only really one platform left, and that's WB. And that's the one thing that WWE has kind of stayed away from. And I mean, what are you going to put it on True TV at this point? Like, I'm not sure where that Shockwave show ends up now that Rampage is gone. Now that AEW Dark is gone, that is another avenue where some of the AEW talents that are lagging or log jammed in their secondary and used to be tertiary shows will languish now. I am very, very interested and how they're maneuvering the strategy on WWE's end. But I'm even more interested to see how AEW maneuvers the strategy, because again, they are, for lack of a better term, kind of like they're overperforming what they've done on Dynamite, or at Dynamite on WB at this point. But there definitely, in my opinion, needs to be more for these talents that barely show up. I watched Collision over the weekend, and there were so many people that, like, I would say, didn't get the biggest reactions, but I feel like if they just had the development to do that, they could. I think that there's a lot of really good talent there. I watched the match between Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, and Kyle O'Reilly, and is indie as that shit was, I could see that there were personalities there at least that do not show up on Dynamite every single week because it is so packed tight with all of their stars. There are a lot of people on that roster. Now there are very few channels to actually display them on. That is a problem for this company at this point. And on top of many other things. Evolve is taking a lot of market share away from that. And now WWE is saying, we're gonna just work with the other top, third, fourth American company here in TNA, and we're gonna give them some of our talent. That's a big move. That's a big move. And who knows who's going to pop into Evolve. I'm not sure if there's going to be any of the PC talent, if they're going to stick to their shows. Obviously, WWE. What was the show called? What was the show that came on after SmackDown? Oh my god, the Discord's going to kill me because they love this shit. It just got canceled. Whatever the fucking show got, it just got canceled. And so, like, does this replace that? Does this replace that show? Oh my god, what was the name of that show? It was Raw the NXT. It wasn't LFG. This is what happens when you do this by yourself because I'm pretty much trying to do all of it on my own. But it's replacing that show effectively. But do those talents end up on Evolve? Is my question. Who knows? Because again, there's gonna be a lot of indie talent from ID on there, and I mean, you're looking at like Kylie Ray, Timothy Thatcher, a lot of like Jack Cartwheel, Brad Baylor, Sean Legacy, a lot of those people on the WWE IED system. What do they, what's going to be the creative looking at that? So I'm interested in seeing that, and we'll see how that shakes out. Next bit of news here, a lot of news over the weekend. Charlotte Flair and Andrade, it was announced that they were pretty much divorced. TMZ put it out yesterday, and basically said that Flair filed for divorce from Andrade last June, and the judge signed off on it in October. So they were married from 2022 all the way up to October of last year. Strong 2 years there. I mean, again, divorce is hard. It definitely will be interesting to see, does Andrade move? Does he stay? Not quite sure what's going on there. But I mean, that's that. That's a pretty unfortunate. You know what I mean? It's always tough to go through something like that. Obviously, there was conversation around Sasha's divorce last year, but this is, I mean, for this to have ended in October and us to just find out, they've kept it pretty close to the vest and pretty private because a lot of us thought that they were still together at that point, and they haven't been. Next bit of news here, we have pretty much, this just came out today. Duke Hudson from NXT, and again, like I just reported about the Evolve news. Duke Hudson was released by WWE. He's been out for actually a couple of weeks. He put out a video, I believe. I haven't got a chance to watch it, but right before I hit record on this, about his time at NXT and what he's going to do next. Obviously, he was part of a huge faction in NXT for such a long time. Chase U, it was him, Andre Chase, Thea Hale, and Riley Osborne. They disbanded last year, and I think the big question was, what are they going to do after they are after they're done? And we haven't seen Thea Hale, we haven't seen Riley Osborne, we've seen Andre Chase a couple of times on NXT. I want to say like last month we've seen him like maybe two or three times during that point. They have not been on TV. They've all kind of been gone. So is this a repackage? What's going on here? Thea Hale, once again, another talent on the roster, been there for 2 years. It's time for it might, figure something out. Like there is a log jam in NXT, and you can see this happening more and more, and or these stories happening more and more with these talent that just stay there for so long, and they need to make room for the people that are coming up from Evolve, from the PC, from all of these avenues. I think WWE has a very big problem in a that they need to solve when it comes to something like this, because this will keep happening if they do not have a place to put these talents, and the main roster is only but so big. So I shudder to say they add more shows because I don't know if we can handle a fifth, sixth show for WWE, but that's what it looks like. That's what that type of thing looks like. Um, yeah, Duke Hudson, he was a great talent. He actually was on the main roster for a while. During the pandemic, went right back down to NXT. I'm not gonna say not the most amazing in the ring, but definitely had a personality. Like his MVP persona on Chase U was really good. I thought that the most embarrassing angle for him was when uh another release superstar, Cameron Grimes, was sunning him every week, and he beat him, and he put him through a fucking poker table and shit. Remember all that? That was fucking crazy. But yeah, Duke Hudson, to me, TNA seems like the best place for him to go. Honestly, that seems like the best spot for him. So we will see what happens with that. But have to start talking about last weekend's Royal Rumble show. I'll say this right now, incredibly enjoyable show. Um, I think this show has broken a lot of people's fucking brains and changed their brain chemistry. I won't even talk about that reaction. Who gives a shit at the end of the day? The show was fantastic. I think one of my favorite shows. I think it was better than last year's show. I think it was a lot better than last year's show. I think last year's show was kind of, I won't say plagued, but it kind of had the stamp of like, we know how we want this to end. We knew last year how we wanted this to end. We wanted it to end with a Cody win. So we came into that knowing that that would be the case. Um, and you know, there was a foregone conclusion there. Obviously, Punk was a part of it. That was his kind of first match back. We didn't know what was to come from the WrestleMania card right after that, but it ended up being one of the best WrestleManias of all time. Now, this one, we had no fucking clue. We knew nothing about what was going to happen in this Royal Rumble, aside from maybe Charlotte. But everything leading up to the men's one was kind of seeped in, and you know we had no clue. We had no clue, and the build was really setting it up so that anyone could have realistically won this show. With 70,000 people from the Lucas Oil Stadium, I'll go through it match by match. The women's Rumble this year, I'll be real. Obviously, I'm gonna exclaim so much about the men's one, which I thought they really overcame the BS from last year. Last year's men's rumble felt like there were very few stars other than like the top three or four. That's Cody, that's Punk, that's Drew at the time, Gunther, and then that was kind of it. And there was not much meat on the bone in that one last year. Even though it was enjoyable up to that last point, the 2023 one cleared it in a lot of ways. This one for the women, they had the best one to me last year. And now with this one, we had EO come out first, Liv Morgan come out second, Roxanne Perez, who ends up being the Iron Woman for the match, it ends up breaking the record for longest Royal Rumble time spent in the ring. At this point, you got to call the girl up, right? You have to call her up. There's no reason that she needs to. I mean, I know she's got to go back for Vengeance Day, but these next 2 weeks should be realistically Roxanne Perez's last times in the NXT ring. Jordan Grace is there, who also she officially debuted as a WWE star in this match. She needs to go. They're giving the biggest rub that they could give is that she lasted that long in the ring during the match. But I mean, she's already there. She's already you can already bring her in as a heel, put her in against EO, put her in against fucking Lyra, put her in against anybody, and you got a star there. I don't know what they're waiting for. Just put her in there, man. I feel like a lot of times booking, Triple H, everyone, they overthink this shit where you could just do it. I think with Roxanne, she's so good. She's a known, proven star on NXT. She popped them so many numbers in the main event in the past year, just on her own, just facing off against anybody that you can put her in against pretty much anybody on the main roster, and she's fine. And I think a lot of it is what I looked at on the women's main roster. Just gonna be honest, it's very dry. That was my kind of outlook on this whole thing and this whole match. Midway through, when the PFC, Shayna Baszler, Sonya Deville, and Zoe Stark, when they're fucking running the show in the middle of the match, I was like, oh my god, the mid card and the top of the card of the women's division is very dry outside of like 4 or 5 different people, and that's like Rhea, Liv, EO, uh, fucking Charlotte, and Bianca. You know what I mean? Like that's it. So when you get the infusion of new talent facing them, like Jordan Grace, like Stephanie Vaquer, like Julia, like Lash Legend, and Jada Parker, that was exciting. Those were exciting moments in the show and or in the match, and there was so few and far between because everything else is so dry. Like it's very tough for me to take a Lyra IC title program serious when she has no fucking competitors other than fucking Ivy Nile. You know what I mean? And Maxine Dupree. Like she needs some people to work with. And I think that, I know Stephanie and Julia aren't ready yet, but at the very least, like, get somebody up there to face her. Get Lash Legend up there to face her. You know what I'm saying? Like, really good spots in this match, though. Bianca Belair, once again, ring general throughout. I thought she was fantastic during the whole thing, as well as Piper Niven, who was in there for 24 minutes and actually carried a big brunt of a lot of the work and really getting over Jordan Grace and doing a lot of really cool stuff in the ring. I thought that Nia Jax, she continues to be, when she comes out, she has the moment of holy fucking shit, she's going to fuck some shit up. She got 9 eliminations during this match, the most of anybody in this match. And again, it makes sense. The one thing I'll say about both these rumbles during this night is that they made fucking sense. Everything from the flow, and none more than none more than the men's rumble, but this one also made sense in terms of like who got thrown out and why, and who got the heat on who and why. Nia Jax getting all of the heat on her for all of the eliminations, and then getting eliminated by Charlotte, who came out at 27. All of it made sense. Charlotte goes on to win the rumble, eliminating Roxanne Perez. Listen, it's going to be a very, very uphill battle for one Miss Charlotte Flair. We'll talk about it on Raw later, but this was a foregone conclusion. I'll say this: those vignettes about her, I was not mad at them announcing her being in the match. I think that was the one thing that if Becky wasn't going to be there, and obviously Becky did not return during this match, you at least need to have something to get people some intrigue about the show. The vignettes that popped up before she came back did not breed any confidence, and at least for me, because it really showed me and a lot of other people who probably look like they agree based on her reactions ever since, that she was going to be back on the same bullshit. I don't think the idea, and I watched her press conference thing talking about her being a top girl and she wants it all. When have you not gotten it all? I think that is the one thing that like strikes me the most, is like there's always been a point in her career where she's had a title. When have you not gotten it all? I think the issue with Charlotte Flair is that none of it seems authentic. It seems very much like I get the sense that when she gets this title, people are going to tune out en masse, and I think that is the uphill battle she has. Nobody wants to see her against Rhea. She'll get biblical boos if that happens. If she goes against Julia, that'll be fucked up. It's not going to happen. Makes no sense. And then you have Tiffany Stratton, who, for all intents and purposes, even if they try and make her a heel here, even if they try to make this a heel versus heel, or like a tweener versus tweener, whatever they try and do with these two, I have no clue, because my big problem with it is that we don't know what the fuck Tiffany is either. They're going to pick her over Charlotte because it's a fresher act and it's a newer character. Regardless of whatever Charlotte has to say, I think that it's the issue of like her having done everything, and her having done everything so early. She got everything so early that it almost feels like people are like, okay, we get it. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know how to fix that. Charlotte's done her stint in NXT. She did her stint in NXT and got the title, and barely showed up there and lost it. She's done it on Raw. She's done it on SmackDown. I don't know what a non-title program looks like for her. I almost feel as though Charlotte needs to be a part-time like Brock type player. Seriously. That gets over women and has a big run for 3-4 months and then disappears off TV and then comes back during the big shows, because she's done everything, and it's going to make it very tough for her to, from what I believe, go to WrestleMania, beat Tiffany Stratton, and then have this title. And then what? Start beating up on Lyra Valkyria? Start beating up on fucking Io Sky, all these other people? Like that just isn't gonna fly to a lot of people. I don't think people are gonna think that's authentic, and it's gonna be very tough. It's gonna be a very long road for her. And I'm not necessarily looking forward to all of it. I've been warning. I've been warning our Discord. I've been warning everyone on the show. This Charlotte Flair run is going to be very, very eye-opening, because I do not think people missed her as much as I think WWE thinks that they missed her. And I think that there is a big misreading of the room. And I think the Charlotte Flair Mania win is starting to look like the fucking Batista Mania or Rumble win. That's what it's looking like to me. I feel like the fans are largely going to reject this, and they've already started. So she's going to be on NXT this week. She's going to be on SmackDown this week. We'll see what happens. I don't know if the PC will boo her, but then again, the PC tries to get themselves over for anything. So, and again, she's going to be facing off against their favorite, their people's champion, in Julia, who has a kind of an organic fan base, grassroots fan base. I don't know how that's going to work out for her. So we'll see what happens this week with Charlotte Flair. Also want to get to DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns. I thought it was a great match. They had a lot to really overcome. Women's Rumble was an hour and 10 minutes. Then they had to go out and do a 14-minute 2 out of 3 falls match. I think they got the crowd after the 1-1. But again, it all ended after the Street Profits came out and attacked Motor City Machine Guns. Dawkins, they said was on a crutch during the weekend, came out with a crutch, hit I believe it was Shelly on the back with the crutch, which led to DIY doing the meet in the middle for the win. I'm with it. I am for a tag division that has rivalries, it has characters, it has them all wanting the title. We have so long really longed for something like this. I mean, we thought it was going to happen after the Usos lost it. Didn't happen. Judgment Day had a fucking vice grip on this. Cody and Jey have had this title. It has been so enraptured in things that had nothing to do with tag team wrestling for so long that it feels good to see that back, you know, under contention again. I'd love to see the tag division get some attention. I was okay with this finish. I thought it was great, and I hope that it leads to a lot more things with the Street Profits, especially. And I hope that these belts start bouncing around. They don't need to be super long reigns; they need to just bounce around. We also saw on SmackDown, Tama Tonga looks like he wants to get his shot back. And again, as long as they're not holding it for fucking 378 million days, I'm cool with them bouncing these titles around. So, really good match between those two. And I think that, this is all setting up for a really big tag team match at WrestleMania. And I hope that happens. Then we get to the ladder match for the Undisputed WWE Championship, Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens, 25 minutes. This was one of the most brutal matches, hard to watch at times matches that I've ever seen. And that's largely because of Kevin Owens being a fucking madman. And to a lesser extent, Cody Rhodes for taking a lot of these. He took the fisherman's buster off the top, hit his head. Kevin Owens doing flat back bumps onto the edge of ladders. It was as violent as you could get in a WWE ring. Um, Kevin Owens, for a large part since Triple H has taken over, has been really handcuffs off. He's been very handcuffs off, able to do whatever the hell he wants to do in the ring. And largely it has really, really kind of worked out in terms of like how brutal his matches have been. This is definitely one of the more brutal matches that we've ever seen. And I think like by nature, I was telling my wife this, like by nature, because she was watching it too. She was like, what the hell was that match? Like it was insane. I was like, by nature, ladder matches are probably one of the most violent matches in there, but you can't even, you know what I mean? Like you can't on the outset no, because the actual goal is to just climb up the ladder and get the thing. But in what happens in between is the violent parts. Like it to me, ladder matches end up being more violent in some ways than fucking Hell in a Cell matches, especially in this current era before Punk and Drew did what they did last year. These are violent matches. We got blood, we got fucking spots all over. We had Sami Zayn come out. That was a big storyline angle, right before with Kevin Owens asking him to come out and do the right thing. Sammy would not interfere, but it would lead to what I thought was spot of the show. Kevin Owens trying to give Cody a package power driver on a ladder that was set between the announce table and the ring. Cody turns it into an Alabama slam, which had Kevin. It looked like his head hit the floor first. I'm not really sure. It happened so fast, camera cuts, all of that stuff. But his head does go through the fucking rung of the ladder, falls through, and then Cody goes up and grabs the belts for the win. Kevin looked he looked insane. It was an insane spot, insane fucking match. And I think again, you keep adding these like Cody's had this title for a long time. He's rarely had a bad match there. I think upon multiple viewings of this, I might go ahead and throw the 5 at it. But it was a fantastic match. I honestly feel like it's probably fucked up, but like if it had gone maybe like 2 or 3 more minutes, I probably would have like given it an easy 5 the night of, but on rewatch, like I was like, I might throw a 5 of this if I watch it again, down the line, removed from everything. But really brutal match. I mean, and Cody continues. He continues his streak of really turning it up for this title and having a great fucking reign with this title. And we're running into WrestleMania, and we'll see what happens there and how that works out. But the story of this coming out of it is that Cody has injuries and he won't be in ring for the foreseeable future. It's seeming like they're wrapping him in saran wrap until April, which is a fucking good idea. He needs to. No one should be getting hurt, a la Punk last year, before they go into this. And Kevin Owens, we'll get to Raw. He ain't have those same stipulations. But the men's Royal Rumble. Listen, I think I'm ready to call it. This to me is probably a top two, maybe one of my favorite Royal Rumbles of all time. I said it from the beginning. There are so many stars on this, and they have really and again, it all has to do with the fact that for a large part of it, or a large part of the reason that it was such a big deal, they finally had Roman lose the title. Roman has to do these matches. When you add Roman Reigns to it, you're able to add everyone else to it. And it makes so much sense that is the reason why it was such a successful match, because all of it made sense. And I know a lot of people are going to go to really the middle or the end of the show, the third act of the match, where you had AJ come out, you had Braun come out, and then subsequently eliminate Jacob Fatu, which plays on their match from Saturday Night's main event. Again, the storyline, the flow, all this, the callbacks, all of that makes sense. But you had Cena, Punk, Seth, all within the same all within that same stretch of time that happened. Roman had come out at 16. Roman and Drew had their thing. You had a lot of people come out between them, but then you had the moment of all of them looking at each other, and then that was a top four. Those are people that you wanted to see, and that ended up going into, once again, the final stretch of the match. Fantastic opening to the match as well, with Rey Mysterio and Penta starting it out. They have a lot of faith in Penta. He had 42 minutes in the match. He actually lasted longer than Jey Uso, who of course eventually won the match. But again, Penta, he's here. He's here. The fans love him. They want to see this guy. He is. It's almost unfathomable that they would get something so right. And I look at it where it's like last year we had the Jay Cargill thing, and she wasn't quite like set or ready to do a lot of that stuff in ring yet. Penta is game and he's ready to do all that stuff in ring. And I think that's the big difference between those two right now. And again, I didn't even bring this up during the women's. Something's up with Jade. I don't know what it is. Something's up with Jade Cargill. We don't know where she is. And I think that's concerning to me. Um, they don't even mention her. They didn't mention her this week. She's not a part of like kind of any conversations going on. I would imagine that she shows up soon, but will we get a at least a fucking description of what happened or what was going on? Who the fuck knows? I don't know. But another big spot during the men's rumble, I show speed, man. I show speed. The most viewed clip from the fucking rumble, this moment between him and Braun Breaker, spears the fucking shit out of. I would have shit my pants if I got hit this hard. This is fucking insane. I would never in my life ask to be hit by a man that's that big going that fast. Braun Breaker can move the ring with how fast he is. Speed is a fucking madman. Do I think he will be back? Hell yes. Speed might as well just fucking gear up, go to the PC. Why not? Fuck it. If he can go, he can flip. He did the flip and then he got speared. Why not, bro? Let's go. Of course, we got to get to the winner here, and I'll kind of tie this into Raw as well. Jey Uso wins the Royal Rumble. Nobody called it. Nobody called it. I was expecting him to be again the bridesmaid here to Cena. I expected Cena to win after and again, actually before we even get to that, the Punk Rollins Roman stuff. What are we thinking here? And even to a lesser extent, the Drew McIntyre stuff, because he was eliminated by Damian Priest, which looks like that's going to be the story here. But apparently, Drew was visibly upset after the after he was eliminated from the Rumble. Dave Meltzer, of course, like uses grain of salt, huge grain of salt here. He was told that the frustration was at work, but his source said that that McIntyre wasn't the only one frustrated. He said there's a lot of people that were pissed in the match with the idea that he was trying to get himself over instead of the match over, and he was doing things. It's not an angle, but if they end up doing an angle with the person that they're talking about later, there's no hint of anything. Uh, Allegedly, people are saying that LA Knight was trying to get himself over, which angered Drew McIntyre. People have been taking the anger to mean that Drew McIntyre was mad about his spot on the card. I'm gonna be real. Drew does the Brian Pillman stuff, and I think a lot of people fall for it. And, it makes no sense why they fall for it. But I think that with that story or that character, it's very easy for people to fall into it and create their own and kind of like activate their own biases because they're mad about Jey Uso winning. Listen, Drew is gonna do what he's got to do. And he's gonna work in however he has to do it. You know what I mean? I don't think that he's mad that he has to work with Damian Priest. There's like a lot of people saying that, oh, Drew thinks it's a nothing match. Well, it ain't nothing because Damian's one of the most over characters on the roster right now. He went to SmackDown and not a single crowd, not a single reaction has been less from when he was on Raw. So that should tell you all about like how important he is and how kind of essential he is. If Drew has to help put over Damian, why the fuck not? They have great matches. I'm not mad at that match. It'll be great. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people are looking at this Jey Uso thing and forgetting, which I don't even know why I have to explain this. Jey Uso is one of the most popular characters in WWE history at this point. Let's call it what it is. Ever since Backlash France, this has been the trajectory for him. Ever since, even before that, I rewatched Royal Rumble 2023. When he walks out of the ring and people start chanting his name, if I'm in the back, I'm saying there's something there with Jey, but we got to cultivate it. And what we saw last weekend was 5 years of cultivation of this character, from right hand man to, uh, loyal soldier to AWOL to being his own person to now being a single star. It is not a traditional way, but the way that they're doing it is traditional. There is no one with a story longer. Maybe CM Punk and his mania, uh, his mania aspirations, but Jey Uso has a 5-year story that we have seen him be a bad guy, be a tweener. We saw his emotional journey from start to finish, kind of culminate in this moment. The people want to see it in the same way that they wanted to see Cody win last year. That's why when people say that no one wanted this or people are upset or they got to redo something or they got to I'm like, no, I don't think. Maybe Charlotte, sure. Jay, no. I think people are going to be rocking with it. I think people are going to rock with it. And him versus Gunther seems to be the best fucking match to do. It makes the most sense. I know Gunther's Gunther's story that he only loses titles at WrestleMania is actually kind of cool because it actually puts over more people. You know what I mean? And I think that with Jay, the story is that you have that big moment, you're able to sell way more fucking merch. The fucking Yeet side plates and the belts. Are you serious? You see Jay Uso in the way he comes out, his gear, his look, his music, his songs. You see a dollar sign, bro. He is a dollar sign. He is a complete and utter bucket in terms of getting money. That is the guy right there. The John Cena thing, he doesn't need a Royal Rumble win. He's got one. CM Punk doesn't need a Royal Rumble win. Seth Rollins has one. Roman Reigns has one. Speaking of those three, what a fucking angle there. They all get eliminated by Logan Paul. Seth Rollins stomps Roman's brains out. It's been announced on Raw that Roman is out for indefinitely. I would imagine he's probably back for the WrestleMania press conference in a couple of weeks, if I had to think. But nothing physical. But what do we think? What do we think here? Punk, Seth, Roman, triple threat. It, to me, doesn't seem big enough to main event on its own. But we'll see how they create this story. I mean, if they're going to do the triple threat, to me, I think they might as well just have Jay close out night one, or just have the women have Charlotte close out night one at that point. If you're going to end it with a triple threat, I just don't know if that triple threat is strong enough to. Well, maybe it is. I mean, I don't have anybody on the other side arguing with me here, but maybe it is. Maybe the triple threat is big enough, and you go ahead and give Punk his main event. But to me, in all intents and purposes, it seems to be like a triple threat. But even if it isn't, Roman and Punk is a great direction, even though there's no heat there yet. But Seth and Punk is just it has grown big enough that it should be. But I don't know if you could do that match again without a stip. And what would that stipulation be? So I'll see how they weave the needle and thread the needle here. But I'm extremely interested in how Roman ties into all of this because it seems like he's firmly with these two guys now, and they're both on Raw. So maybe the idea is that WWE wants to have Roman on Raw leading up to WrestleMania. Because I mean SmackDown, if you just have Cena on there, that just makes the most sense at that point. But yeah, Jey Uso wins the Royal Rumble. Great fucking moment. And then we lead into Raw. Comes out. He does his entrance twice, which again, like I said, he's a bucket. This is a moneymaker right here. That entrance is one of the best entrances I've ever seen. And now people always compare it to Jeff Hardy. Jeff ain't never do this, guys. I'm sorry to say. Jeff ain't never do this. We can all give respect to Jeff. We're not debasing him. We're not putting him down. Jeff didn't have he didn't have this, man. He didn't have it, yo. This is straight up aura right here. Maybe I think with Jeff there was so much stop and start. There was so much things that kind of got in the way of him getting there that Jay just didn't have to deal with. I mean, obviously, his Jay's cousin is one of the biggest stars of all time. You know what I mean? Like that's a part of it, but Jay is just that guy at this point. He cuts a heartfelt promo in tears about how he got here. Started the game, got in the game 15 years ago, he says. And he says thank you to the fans, which causes Gunther to come on. Gunther gets in his bag when he's talking to when he doesn't believe in you, dog. When he doesn't believe in you, he gets in his fucking bag, and he definitely told Jay how he felt about him here. Really good promo segment between these two. I think honestly one of my favorite segments of the show. I'll definitely go back and watch that. But again, Jay, I think that my thing with Jay is he has to like the promos, if anything, as raw as they are, they're very real, and you actually feel as though he's saying this and it was not written for him. So like for me to be like, oh, he needs to improve his promos, I'm like, no, because people they hang on his every word. And so like if anything, there's no one on the show that cuts promos like Jay at all. Nobody. Not a single person that cuts promos like that. And so I'm all for it. Fuck it. Let it all go. I thought it was great. It's seeming to me that he's gonna pick Gunther, but obviously they have to thread the needle a little bit more. Jay will be on SmackDown this week to talk to Cody. We'll see how that lands. But also and more stuff that happened on Raw. We had the Elimination Chamber qualifiers. We'll get to CM Punk and Sammy later, but we had Liv Morgan versus Io Sky. Seeming to me there's smoke in the air that it's going to be Io and Rhea. Makes the most sense here. They're getting the most time together. Just wouldn't make sense to go any other way. And again, like it's fine if this is the way that they want to go. Rhea comes out to speak to Charlotte earlier in the night. Charlotte has, to me, a disaster of a promo. A disaster. I think again, largely misreading the room. They came out and wanted her to say one thing. She could not even get her heartfelt thank you out or her heartfelt, like, I didn't think I would come back, never would have made it, et cetera, promo out. She was not even able to do that. Cleveland was pretty much booing her from the moment she got out. And I knew that it was a problem when she's walking and they're doing the opening for the show and everyone's walking in and you already start to hear boo birds. You're like, oh, this isn't good. Like they're already booing her. That doesn't sound good. Yeah, they're already booing her from the moment she's stepping into the arena to the moment where she walks out. They're booing her in a crazy. She's like a Big Bird. That fit was like not it, but um, she says, whether you boo me or you woo me, I missed you guys. It's like no, nobody fucking missed her. It was to me a large and in a rare moment. And actually, no, I won't even say rare. I think this is their rock moment. I think this is their rock moment again happening this year where they've completely misread the room and whoever is trying to do creative for Charlotte misread exactly how people feel about her. She should not be a babyface, but in my opinion, she also should not be beating Tiffany Stratton if that's where she's gonna go. She does mention she's gonna she started on Raw, she's gonna go to NXT this week, and she's gonna go to SmackDown, which is where I think she's gonna land ultimately against Tiffany Stratton. Um, I just don't think it's a good idea for her to come back in and beat Tiffany Stratton. I know it's gonna happen. I would I I don't know. I do not envy Triple H for having to deal with all of these personalities and these egos, but I don't know if it's going to go over too well if they tell her the night of that she's got to lose to Tiffany Stratton, even though she should. I hope they have a compelling storyline to come out of this because even when Rhea Ripley came out, it was just night and day. who people wanted to see. But of course, Rhea came out, uh, begged Charlotte to pick her. I don't think it's going to happen. But as she goes backstage, she runs into to Io Sky, and then Io gets attacked, which leads to Rhea coming out to help her against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, which leads to their Elimination Chamber qualifier match, which Rhea cost Liv the match, or she cost Io the match, which led Liv to be the first person that was qualified to be in the Elimination Chamber. Forgot to mention, John Cena is already in the chamber. He basically went out on the press conference on Saturday and said, "I," he said, I'm tired of this bullshit. It's best for business for me to be in the main event of WrestleMania. I'm going to be in the Elimination Chamber, and I'm not going to qualify for it." And so pretty much they put him in. And Triple H said, "Yeah, he's right." And so he's already in it. I forgot to mention that earlier, but yeah, he's already in the Elimination Chamber. Great promo he cut on the press conference as well. He answered no questions, said all of that, then left. So I love that. We won't be seeing him on TV leading up to it. He pretty much said it. He was like, "I'm going to go film a movie. I'll be back in a month. Peace." Short and sweet. We also had another match with Penta versus Ludwig Kaiser. A pretty lengthy match. They're putting Penta through the paces. There's some spots with him where he's still kind of out of place. A couple times, I think I feel like he honestly be getting so excited and turned up that he's actually in WWE that he just be forgetting shit. Because like he'd be out of place sometimes, and you could see Ludwig kind of like pulling him back into like the middle of the ring, into camera shot and stuff like that. So it was a good match. Obviously, Ludwig always has great matches, which led to Pete Dunne coming out after Penta wins and Ludwig attacks him again. There's some type of three-way battle mid card they got going on here, but I ultimately think that it's good for Penta to kind of get his reps here until they're ready to put him into a bigger program. AJ Styles was released, or not released, oh my God, was revealed to be the newest member of WWE Raw. Braun Breaker seems to be the first step for him. He pretty much said, "Yo, don't bring him around me." And we'll see what happens coming out with that in the next couple of weeks. I think it's a good change of pace for AJ Styles. He needs to be away from the Roman Cody stuff, especially if he's babyface. He got his old music back and all of that stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. But I mean, we're quickly approaching, for the final couple of matches for AJ Styles. I'm wondering what that retirement tour looks like for him. Obviously, like Cena's getting his big one this year. Do they hold off on AJ until his deal's almost up? Not quite sure there, but there's a lot of people to dance with on Raw for him, especially young talent. So we'll see what happens with that. What else happened here? New Day, new look, new song. I actually like the new song. It's pretty good. Versus Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio. Logan Paul comes out during the match. He was not felt at all in his hometown. They did not fuck with him at all. You could hear him and within earshot of either Pat or Cole's mic talking to one of the fans. I think one of the fans said something about his kid or something about his wife or his family or something. He was very upset. He actually broke character for a second, but he was, of course, instrumental in Ray and his team losing to the New Day, who are continuing to kind of get back on their winning ways. I'm actually interested in where they end up at in Vegas. Um, they get a measurable amount of heel heat here, and I think that uh, we should be looking out on if Big E has a friend or if they're getting something for primed for him. But Mania seems like they'd be a great place as ever to have Big E come back or at least be involved in some way against the New Day. Speaking of tag teams, Viking, what was it, War Raiders? Looks like they're up for American Alpha next, or Alpha Academy, whatever the fuck the motherfuckers is called. And while Chad Gable is, I guess, going on PTO, he's saying he's going to go be a luchador. If he comes back with the mask, I'm gonna fucking die. He needs to just go all like crazy with it. He needs to wear a mask, all of that shit. Just fuck it. Just go all luchador with it, and then go against Penta again. I think that would be fucking hilarious. What else happened on Raw? Whew. We had, well, Miz is gone, so I think that like the 4K thing is all is moving on to the next natural thing, away from that bum. You know what we're talking about. We're going towards Sami Zayn, and they're planting the seeds with Sami Zayn pretty well. I'll give my thoughts on what's going to happen here with Sami in a second, but we had Seth Rollins come out for a promo. He talks about how he was mad that he lost the Royal Rumble, but he loved to see CM Punk get embarrassed. He was happy for Jey Uso, but he was happy also that Reigns is hurt and that he was the one that did it. He said that there's so many paths to get the Royal Rumble. He's got a qualifying match with Finn Balor in 2 weeks, which should be pretty good. And he says that he calls out Sami Zayn because he also has to say some things to Sami Zayn. He says very uncharacteristic, but also unbelievable here. He says that Sammy knows how much Seth knows how much Sammy hates CM Punk, and he says that Punk said that Sammy wasn't on his level, and he said he had the nerve to say that. He says Sammy is a main eventer, a good person. He's levels above CM Punk, and he says he needs the best out of Sami Zayn tonight, and he says he wants the best people in the Elimination Chamber, and that leads him to start a Sammy chant. It's so funny to see like the gradual decline in Seth's sanity here. CM Punk comes out and they get a small little brawl before they go to the back here. And then you get Sami Zayn versus CM Punk in the main event. I thought this was a really good match for a first time match. It was a lot of mat wrestling. There was a lot of really cool but simple story stuff being done and character work. Sammy's just really good at that stuff. Really, really great moments here. Punk goes for the anaconda device at one point, gets to the ropes. He does he he tells Sammy to look at his sign. He says, "Hey," he says, "Hey, Ska Boy, look at the sign." Then Sammy at one point misses the Helluva kick, blocks it, but then he blocks the GTS, and Sammy rolls up Punk for two. I bet on that one toward the end of the match. They he blocks another GTS, and Sammy hits the suplex into the corner. Hell of a kick. He tries to go for the hell of a kick, but he gets hit by the GTS, and CM Punk wins the match. And just under 10 minutes for the main event there. Punk, of course, shakes Sammy's hands, and I believe he mouths like "You're on my level" or something like that to Sammy. Walks out the ring, and out of nowhere, Kevin Owens comes out and attacks Sammy from behind. Sammy, interestingly enough, manages to push Punk out of the ring after being pretty much pushed by Kevin Owens. He hits a package power driver on Sammy in the middle of the ring and walks out for the end of the show. It's uh, looking to me like Kevin and Sammy in Toronto Elimination Chamber, maybe. Makes a lot of sense to me. I just think with them, you can't do a regular match with them no more. So I would say you have Sammy out for a couple of weeks, and then he comes back. Maybe Kevin gets into the Elimination Chamber, and then Sammy comes back in Elimination Chamber to set up their match for WrestleMania. I would have Sammy out for a couple of weeks, but I think ultimately with Sami Zayn, you're starting to see the gradual decline, and I think that the key to Sammy being the big time match winner and being the champion that we all want him to be, he's going to have to turn, and I think he's going to have to turn on Jey Uso. I think that is the story being told here. I don't know when. I don't know if you pull the trigger in the summertime. I don't know if you pull the trigger in the spring, just after Mania. I think Jay wins the title. I would even have Sammy, win Money in the Bank or something like that. But ultimately, Sammy has to betray Jey Uso in order for this to happen. There's a lot of smoke to that. That's his best friend. That's his closest friend. But Sammy cuts off his friendships with KO. He cuts off all these things, and he actually becomes KO. You know what I mean? He actually becomes the person that betrays friends. And I think that he learns from all of the evil influences in his life that have done him wrong, and they lead to pretty much him turning on Jay. Like I think that's the story that they want to tell, and I'm interested in seeing that if that's where they go, and I want to see how that happens. But really blockbuster angle here at the end of the show. Punk is in the Elimination Chamber with Cena at this point. I will go ahead and go on a limb and say I think Seth Rollins is going to make it as well, and it's going to be a big show. The Toronto shows are always huge here, and I'm interested in seeing what happens next week. But even if the Rumble winners didn't announce what they were going to do, it seems pretty clear what's going to happen here, and where things might be heading. But this Raw definitely kind of planted the seeds for what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. We're 3 weeks away from Elimination Chamber, so they got quite a lot of time, and then there's nothing pretty much until until April. So we got a lot of time to go. They can stretch this out for as long as they want to, and I'm interested in seeing everything that happens. So that was the shows. That was elimination, or that was Raw as well as Royal Rumble. We will see you guys next week. Apologies to everyone that Niels isn't here this week. Of course, we're going to be back at you guys next week with another episode of the A Show. Sorry for the truncated episode. Obviously, it's just me. It's just me, Oos. But thank you guys for listening. As always, make sure you subscribe to our Patreon. $5 down, you get the free show. or $5 you get the paid show with all of the show reviews, and just for free you'll get this show. But I want to tell you guys to tune in to the War Report this week. I want to change the War Report. Tell Quan and Cyrus that I want to change the name of the War Report. I think the war is over. I don't think there's a war anymore. Like, realistically, is NXT and AEW, are they at war anymore? I don't think I think these shows are just attempting to do two different things at this point. And I think war is the furthest thing from all of those things. So I want to, what can we change the War Report to? The the small fisticuff? I don't know. The report? I said the report is fine. That sounds too academic. I don't know. We'll see. But shout out to Cyrus and Quan. Thank you guys for listening to the A Show. I am Justin, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.